Welcome to Light Up the Buffalo Economy. This is the podcast where we tell the stories of leaders and operators making a difference for others across our city. So what does it mean to light up the Buffalo economy? Simply, it's about empowering businesses to do their best work. Every episode, we talk about what it really takes to grow a business here, how great leadership, smart technology, and strong relationships can fuel success. What does that success look like? Delivering better services, hiring more people, and investing in their teams and communities. All things that make a lasting difference for the region we love. Let's get into the conversation, and thanks for joining us. So, Kyle, let's talk about what it's like in a multi-generation family business.
Sure. So I will start by saying that there were times in my life when I was younger that I knew this was the future, but it wasn't my entire career where I knew I was going to come back and work with my father, and it didn't have anything to do with Buffalo or the thought of working with my father. I just built a really nice life for myself in New York, and there was a good period of time where I thought, man, maybe I'm not going to go back.
Do that for forever.
Yeah. But then when I started thinking of the importance of family and how that fits into our lives, and how I want my kids to have sort of the same upbringing that I had in Buffalo, which is a phenomenal place to raise your kids, and I'm incredibly close to my parents and wanted them to have their grandparents. And my wife's a big family person. Even though her family's not here, she wanted to be around family. So, as I became more serious in those thoughts, I thought, okay, then it sort of came back. All right, it makes sense now.
Were your kids born here, or did you have kids there and then moved with them?
We were pregnant when we moved.
Okay.
So made in New York, born in Buffalo.
We have a similar story in that like kind of mindset. We actually my wife and I had 3 little girls. The oldest was in kindergarten at the time. We were living in Seattle and didn't really have any thoughts of moving back to Buffalo. But family here, loved them, missed them. The opportunity kind of presented itself, and our thoughts were, man, Buffalo's a great place to raise a family. A little more simple, easier to get around. And so that drew us back. And then we added another one to the mix, and now we got 4 kids, but similar, similar kind of thought process. Because it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah,
it really is. What is from a business perspective, talk to me about some of the great things and some of the challenges that go in, multi-generation family.
I think the natural progression from a city like New York to a city like Buffalo, you have to really learn patience, because you don't need it in New York. Everything happens at the speed you want it to happen, and sometimes too quick.
Okay.
And then you move back to Buffalo, and it's just a little bit slower naturally.
Yeah.
And I've had to just become a little bit more patient and understand it's a different market. So that's probably been the biggest overarching hurdle that I've had to get through, which I think I'm getting there. 5 years after 5 years. Probably didn't help that when I moved back in the end of 2019, we shut down our entire office 4 months later.
COVID, yeah.
So the combo of Buffalo plus a pandemic didn't really make things much quicker.
Yeah.
But like anything, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I started out my career here in as tough of a environment as you could ever imagine. And I think I'm going to become, our company's better from it at the end of the day.
I think there's a lot of people who probably argue that the last 5 years have felt like 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the trial that everybody's gone through, I think, whether you're running a company or you're working for one, of, the making it through COVID and then post-COVID. And then now I think we're on to a next phase even after that, where things have kind of resettled into what is the future going to look like with technology and cities and everything else, and how does business work. And, there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play. One of them is real estate, which you know quite well. What is going on in the real estate world? Take that from like a bigger kind of picture, like nationally or maybe even internationally, if you get involved in that type of stuff, and then distill it down to Buffalo. Because I'm interested. I don't know much about real estate. I know a little bit, but from our experiences here in moving offices and going from a suburbs to a downtown, and then through some friends like yourself, I've learned a little bit from. But what's going on out there right now in the real estate world? And then talk a little bit about Buffalo real estate in particular, and what is the future even look like?
Yeah. I could probably spend an hour and a half talking about this, but I'll try and not limit myself. What's interesting coming out of the pandemic, and if you were to tell me in mid 2020 that we would be back to where we are in terms of office occupancy, I would have been like, yes, let's go. Because we really thought at a point in 2020, like the days of an office are going to go away. It was that scary. What's interesting as we came out of that and how the last 5 years have been different from a real estate standpoint than from a lot of other industries is we saw a recovery coming out of COVID, probably in like the end of 21, and then 22 was a good year. You still had low interest rates. People were starting to use the office like 2 to 3 days a week, so it wasn't gone. And we did pretty well. And then as occupancies and I'm just talking from an office standpoint, there's a higher arching other asset classes that I'll touch on in a second. But then you had people starting coming back to the office, which helped the office market, but rates started spiking.
Yeah.
So now we had a different headwind. So we basically had like 12 months to really churn some buildings, sell some buildings, do well, fill our buildings, and then rates went up and it sort of just went stagnant again across the country.
Okay.
So, we ask why would rates go up really impact much? I mean, in our business, you need to be able to buy and sell to really do well. The recurring revenue is there. It'll keep you alive. It'll keep the lights on.
Okay.
But if you're not buying and selling, then it's really hard to make true profits in real estate. And the capital markets have made that almost impossible over the last two plus years.
So then what has to happen? Do rates have to go down?
Rates have to go down. Yeah, rates have to. And really what has to happen more than anything is and this is going to be almost impossible with what's going on in the world today, which is scary, is certainty. It's uncertainty that kills us. When we can't predict, we can't commit. Real estate's a long-term, whether you're leasing, whether you're owning, whatever way you're looking at real estate, it's normally a long-term decision.
Yeah.
And if there's uncertainty out there, are you going to make a long-term decision on your real estate? No, you're going to kick the can down the road.
That's right.
You're going to not make a decision. And ultimately, if decisions aren't being made on real estate, transactions aren't happening, and there's no way to really monetize anything.
We're living through right now this, for at least a lot of what we look at as a company in terms of certainty, is what is technology transformation, like AI, for example, going to do to the industries that we're in, how we do our work, how many people we're going to have on our team, which affects our real estate space. Like what kind of space needs do we have? That's different from what are rates.
Yeah. That's something we study often too. And if, I know you mentioned about the podcast we do at Ciminelli. I did a podcast 2 weeks ago with a gentleman by the name of Roy Abernethy, who's a consultant or leads the consulting group from Newmark, which is one of our parent affiliates, that his entire job is really consulting on workplace strategy and how to use the office in the future. And a big component of what we talk about is how AI is going to impact office going forward.
Okay.
And it's, it's interesting. Newmark always, and that I spent the majority of my career at Newmark in New York City. And when I came back in 19, I sort of meshed them two together and brought Newmark to Buffalo, which is a different story. But the consulting group within Newmark, usually prior to COVID, was sort of like a ancillary service that we really didn't use that often. And then post-COVID, everyone became, every type of user of any type of real estate became so just so at loss of what to do with their office space, how to get employees back. So our consulting group is now a group that we talk to regularly.
Okay.
And introducing to our clients regularly, and law firms understanding, how is my hybrid policy going to impact my space allocation?
Got it.
It's like a question that comes up often. How is AI going to impact how I design space? Is a big question. So we are bringing these folks into this region. I would happy to make an intro to you too. You'd be a really fun conversation.
Yeah, please.
We were with them with Moog a couple weeks ago, Catholic Health. So just a lot of the bigger users in Western New York are taking advantage of this service to really understand the trends going forward. Okay.
I can imagine that being really helpful because of the uncertainty. So whether the conversation's on things, like you said, like AI, or it's on, what if rates stay the same? What do I do? What if they go down? What do I do? What if they go up? What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, what COVID made us learn is that real estate was inflexible. It was just rigid, and we need to find ways to make real estate more flexible.
Yeah,
because everyone was just stuck with long-term obligations in 2020. They really didn't know what to do with them.
You know what's so interesting about that? Because for the last 5 years, we've been downtown, which was a first for our company. For the 15 years before that the company had been around, we were in the suburbs, kind of different areas, north towns and out near the airport and that type of stuff. But coming downtown, when you talk about flexible space, the winter versus the summer weather, it's always been it's been on my mind since we've been downtown on how not built for the winter we are in terms of being a walking city and moving around. You go to downtown Minneapolis and there's an above ground walkway that connects every building. So like you could go, dozens of city blocks and not go outside.
Indianapolis is the same,
right?
Toronto,
And we don't have that. All the underground parking, which we've got some. It sounds like we need to learn that lesson in terms of real estate here. And I got to imagine it's really difficult to take old bones though sometimes too, because some of these buildings have been around for a long time. Like how do we apply that concept of flexibility to like to a place like downtown?
Well, the building we're sitting in right now is a great example of flexibility in a way that it's created enough of a world that you really don't have to go outside for much, right? It's amenitized and programmed as much as you could.
Yep.
And those are the type of trends that you're seeing in assets that are doing very well across the country right now. There has been and I'm going to answer the city question too, but there's been a flight to quality. So if you look at the difference between a Class A building in any city and a Class B, C sort of with older corridors and no amenities, the vacancy difference is like 20%.
Okay.
So companies are the forward-thinking smart companies that are doing well are understanding that if I want to motivate my employees to come in and mandate that they're now going to be in this more stringent 3 to 4 day hybrid policy as opposed to 1 to 2, which is prior, I better give them everything and more that they had at home. And that's what you have in this building, and that's what most of the buildings that are doing very well are offering their tenants.
Okay.
So that's a big trend right now: flight to quality, amenities, programming. It's just taken on a whole new level. And I think a good example of sort of that from an outdoor aspect was when you look at Larkinville.
Yep. Like
they've sort of developed programmatically, and really everything they build complements the next thing that they build. And it's just such a really great job by the Zemsky family and how they do that. And they've been very successful with it. I mean, there's been a lot of companies. I mean, they've filled up huge amounts of vacancy in the last 3 years when there has not been many transactions going on at all. And that's because people want to be part of that environment.
Yeah. It's down there, they have kind of all of the things. Yeah. So whether you're in, their largest building where they've got, I don't know, 30 companies or so that are in there, and you just want to stay in that building, you can do that because they've got the food hall that they've got there, and they've got all the amenities, or just to be able to park, go in the building, you can stay in the building all day and you can leave if you want. But then just outside the door, within very short walking distance, or sometimes there is walkways that you get where you can even stay undercover or whatever. You've got all the different restaurants and there's other companies that are there, and then they have the outdoor life and all that type of stuff where they do their food truck Tuesdays, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
And,
concerts on Wednesdays, I believe.
Yeah. So it's, they built a neighborhood and a community. But then you also have the concept of, if you just want to work here and you just want to stay in the building and then get in and get out, you can do that too, especially if it's a really cold day outside or whatever. Yeah. So I can see how more of that is where people are flocking to. Plus you get the energy of lots of people being around, which I think
goes a long way.
For us being a smaller company, we're here in Seneca One right now. That's a big thing. It's nice to be around other people.
And there's not that many companies in Western New York and Buffalo the size of M&T where you can go build out 300,000 feet and build your own arcade.
Yeah.
So you like a company of your size needs to be within a building that has a lot of those features built in.
Yep.
So that's a big piece of it. I would say too is, as much as we are and we consider ourselves a tough city, I don't know that we always embrace the cold as much. We always make the joke, like, come Labor Day, all the patio furniture is gone everywhere.
Yeah.
And
we just go into hibernation almost, right?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, I spent half my life in New York, and I can tell you, you could still sit outside a restaurant in December. They'll serve you. They'll throw a heater there and you'll sit there in your coat and you'll enjoy the outside and we don't need to kill everything once it hits, 50 degrees. And we've just sort of have that mentality around here. I think it'd be tougher around Seneca One with the winds. But when you move up 5 blocks,
Yeah.
it's not that bad outside. And we really just need to embrace, I think, the winter a little bit more and get a little more creative of how we create those more of that igloo type effects like that some of the restaurants see,
Absolutely. And that's, you talk about the flexibility, like that kind of mindset is that's that idea. Okay, we switch seasons and it's a significant change. Are we adapting so that we're utilizing our space, whether that's indoor or outdoor, whether it's residential or it's commercial, during all 12 months of the year? And yeah, you go to cities like Minneapolis, which is far colder, Montreal and Toronto are just as cold, if not colder. Yes, we are west of the lake, so there are some winds, and from time to time there's some snow, but that's usually south towns. To your point, past November until April, there's just not a lot going on outside.
No.
And what is it? What do we got to do? What do we got to do to change that? How do we make something like that cultural?
Well,
I don't know the answer.
I think we, as a region, we embrace the winter culture well with outdoor winter activities that include skiing or going to Chestnut Ridge or snowshoeing. We have that aspect.
But I think we do a lot of that, but it's not downtown,
exactly.
Right? So those things are all, you got to go, you drive to Ellicottville or you drive down to Colden area or things like that where we've got some of those places like Buffalo Ski Club, Kissing Bridge.
I think the answer for downtown is we need to have more buildings like Seneca One or Seneca One Light. Nothing will ever be like Seneca One, obviously. Nothing's that size and scale and has the ability to, but more buildings that have more indoor things to do. No, obviously I was talking a little bit about the patios, but that's a small feature of it. We don't have enough of a entertainment and retail vibrant life downtown where you can go. I mean, we've got some axe throwing, we've got an indoor golf facility, and they're sort of spread out from each other. We need more stuff like that where people are going to want to come downtown to get something unique, and we don't have any really unique features right now besides like a hockey game or a Bandits game.
Is there downtown, and those things are at like Shays and where the Bandits and the Sabres are at kind of the opposite ends of Main Street. How do we get? I don't know anything about this, but if you look at like Main Street and you go down from the theater district, which is right before the train goes down into the tunnel.
I just made the walk here. You're going to say, I walk from the theater district to here, right?
Right. And all the way to the arena, which is just 2 blocks, 3 blocks further south. There's a lot of vacant buildings along that track. How do we, I'm imagining that, do we have a lot of different private owners along that strip or some of it by the, it's all private? How do we fill those buildings?
I mean, the answer is easy. Getting to the answer is difficult. It's residents, it's residential, it's multifamily.
Okay.
That was the answer pre-pandemic. It's more of the answer now. We were never a city that was going to attract enough business to fill all of our vacant buildings with office workers. It just wasn't going to happen.
And there's a decent amount of those buildings were retail too, and retail's kind of faded out to online.
And retail's going to follow where the people are. So until we bring density, retail's never going to happen.
Okay.
So what's being done in a lot of our sister cities across the country right now is they're just heavily incentivizing the conversion of buildings to residential.
But didn't you say rates are also getting in the way of this? I mean, you said incentivizing with the tax breaks and things like that.
They're getting in the way of it that it needs to be heavily, not only these are huge projects. It costs a ton of money to convert an office building to multifamily.
Right. And it has to do more with like things like plumbing because they aren't set up to have toilets in every
the infrastructure
unit. It's just one in the middle of the building.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a costly endeavor, even if there were 3% rates. It'd be very hard to get to pencil. Now, when you're talking your 6, 7, 8s, we're at now, it's even more difficult. So you need a really aggressive and creative government to really incentivize these things to make them happen, which New York State just has not given us any help in Buffalo. Believe it or not, this will sound shocking to you. There was in the state budget last year, there was a ton of money that was going to New York City for the conversion of office buildings to residential. And I can tell you with experience that those deals pencil without the subsidy. So they were focusing on I mean, they're focusing on, it was the only time I've gone through those budgets numerous times. That's the only
Okay.
time I've ever seen a real carve out for New York City that didn't attribute to like Buffalo, Albany, Syracuse, when we're actually the ones where our downtowns are, they need help more than New York times 10.
Okay.
So that type of subsidy package that we can now use to go take an empty office building and make it pencil so you're not losing money, putting all of that money into it,
Yeah.
converting it to that's what we need. Right now, there's a toolbox for it, but it's only for affordable housing. It's only for heavily subsidized, lower income, which is a good piece.
It's important.
It's very important, but it's
not self-sustaining.
No, it's not. And it's a piece of a big puzzle.
Yeah.
And we're ignoring the rest of the puzzle right now, unfortunately.
I could imagine like that, because affordable housing is obviously incredibly important to communities. If there isn't the opportunity for profit to be made, you're going to have less options for people wanting to come in and do that work, take the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
And do that work.
Yeah.
And then less options mean less competition.
Mm-hmm.
Less competition means sometimes the price goes up for those that are trying to buy into it. It just makes it more and more difficult. Is there any way out of this that doesn't involve government?
Right now, no.
Okay.
No, there's
no like super creative solutions that can be done. Like
they're too, with where the market is, with where the capital markets are, rates are, and the cost to convert these buildings. Like I said, even if we were talking about doing this in 2018, it would still take significant subsidy.
Okay.
It's just too heavy of a project. And the problem we run into in Buffalo is we have somewhat of New York City costs with Buffalo revenues. So it almost costs as much for us to do these projects here, and we're getting not even close to the revenue that New York would be.
What are some of those costs? Is it like real estate taxes that have to be paid?
No, our taxes aren't that bad here. It's more just cost of labor.
Okay.
Material costs, stuff like that. Cost to build, the actual hard costs.
Yeah.
They're high.
Because I got to imagine you're paying somewhat the same price for steel and rebar and all these types of things as if you're building a building here. In New York City.
It's just people try to make it complex. It's just a math problem that hasn't worked here in a long time.
Okay. This episode of Light Up the Buffalo Economy is brought to you by Lighthouse Technology Services, the place for technology talent. Some people know us for recruiting top-tier technology professionals. Others know us for our managed IT services team that keeps their systems running smooth and securely. But clients become partners and friends because of how we offer both under one roof and how we lead with a human touch at every step. We call it technology talent matchmaking. Whether you need a full-time hire, short-term project support, or a trusted team to partner with, we'll guide you to the right solution. When you think technology, you know where to look. Look for the Lighthouse. Lighthouse Technology Services. Now back to the show.
And that's why you haven't really seen projects get built downtown without government help, because it just, if you look at it from a developer, why would I do that?
Got it.
It loses money from day one.
Yeah, and I can see how lots of projects were planned by companies looking with good intentions and the math penciled out, and then the last several years coming out of COVID, everything, all of us. I mean, anybody who goes to the grocery store and remembers what they bought milk for, 2 years ago versus today, has felt cost increases.
You've definitely had to reset your expectations. We still have projects that are ongoing that were underwritten pre-2020, and I often have to remind my team, like, we can't look at what we expected in 2019. We have to look at where we're at as it relates to the market, and we're doing pretty well. We're breaking even on this project. Believe that sounds terrible, but compared to most, it was underwritten in 2019. To break even now, it's actually a win.
It's a win.
Yeah.
Man, what a knock to our expectations,
exactly.
Huh? Like we had to lower the bar, and that's not good. We want to be raising the bar.
Exactly. But my thought process is you get your money back on a break even right now, and let's go relook at something with a different mindset and go hit that home run.
Are those things in Buffalo, or is the look at something with a different mindset like geography and looking at other areas?
They can be in Buffalo. They can definitely be in the Buffalo region. I mean, a lot of our suburbs are doing. I mean, Amherst is doing phenomenal.
Yeah.
South towns are doing okay. From an industrial standpoint, Buffalo's doing okay.
Okay.
So that type of product, if you look over at like Renaissance Commerce Park or some of the other stuff we have going on, John Williams is a really unique opportunity over at Tonawanda Coke that's going to put us on the map with a fantastic site that's got a ton of power, really unique infrastructure that we don't really have in our region. I think the closest thing's like the stamp site.
Okay.
So that'll be huge. So the region, I think there's some real opportunity. There can be in Buffalo. I think I say that more with my heart than my brain, unfortunately, because I want there to be. But we're still looking at a handful of projects in Buffalo that we'd like to try and make happen. But they're all around the multifamily sector.
Okay. You know, it's interesting that you bring up some of those like industrial projects and things like that, or getting out into the suburbs. Like, I think a downtown is obviously a snapshot um, worthy space. Like it's the go-to for, you know, your drone footage in between the football game,
Yeah.
in the commercials,
Yeah.
right, and that type of stuff, and those pictures, and downtowns can obviously be beautiful. Buffalo has a long history of hidden gems in a whole lots of ways, but when it comes to its business, a lot of industry and companies that are located in a space that they're not on Main Street, right? They're on, you know, they're in a suburb or off the beaten path where unless you work at that location, you may not ever drive down that road or know that company exists.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would like to see us get better at, the marketing of those hidden gems.
I agree.
There's lots of companies that employ 100 people. They do something really neat or really important to our community. We use their products or services all the time. My kids would even know of their product.
Yeah.
They might not know the actual company name, but they had no idea that, oh, that's made in Buffalo, or that's done in Buffalo or whatever. And I think that there's an opportunity there for us to showcase more and more companies like that. And there can be a lot of real estate wins,
Yeah.
you know, with those types of spaces. They're just off the beaten path. They're not on your Main Street downtown.
No.
So they might not be as press worthy or attract as much press as the same size company just being plopped down on Main Street.
Yeah. I mean, I think of a company that follows along that path, but does get a lot of publicity that I think should even get more. And, you know, with what, you know, Oxford Pennant down on Main Street, I think really represents who we are as a city in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's companies out that aren't as good at marketing as Dave and Brett might be, that have, you know, a good impact as well, that we should be celebrating.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys do. I don't know them personally, but their product is something that's marketable, and it's a B2C. It's a consumer product too. You and I can go and buy one, and we would buy one. There's lots of other companies that, like, we have a client called Bison Bag. They make plastic packaging, and essentially anything that you buy at Wegmans that comes in a plastic package, they make the plastic package. You know those little trees that are the air fresheners for the car? Yeah. They make the plastic packaging that they come in. They employ 120 people. They're on they're in a kind of like a little industrial park in Lockport, like off the beaten path. You would never drive past their location. But like I said, they employ 120 people. They've been growing over the last several years. And, you know, there's a lot of companies like that in Buffalo.
We were with one of our newer clients, Rosina, yesterday.
Yeah, Rosina Foods.
Yeah, to think about how many meatballs are being produced.
That's right.
Here and stuff. Yeah, you know, I've seen some of their facility. I saw even more of it yesterday, and it was just so eye-opening to see how cool it was this is happening in Buffalo.
I'd like us to celebrate that more. It's kind of like the, you know, we like to pride ourselves, whether it's the Bills or whatever, as the blue collar, like kind of the tougher, maybe we're not as cachet or whatever as a New York City or any of that type of stuff. I think we could take that approach to celebrating our businesses around here too.
And grungy's cool now. We're a grungy city.
Yeah,
we should wear it.
I'm on board for that, for sure. All right, so bring me back to, you made mention of companies coming out of COVID, the hybrid work week.
Yes.
Okay. What are you seeing in terms of the changes through to now? Because we went through a part where nobody was coming in, as a matter of fact, and we had you know, whether it's governments or whatever, like encouraging people just to stay home. And then we went to companies were trying really hard to bring people back, but we can't get them back. Then we got people back a couple of days a week. And we're in a kind of a next phase of that. What are you
It's
seeing
the
in
year
terms
of
of
the
real
mandate
estate?
this
Yeah.
year. This is the year of the mandate. Last year was the year of the pilot, and everyone was trying to figure out what hybrid policy worked. And this year is the year where we're seeing companies actually mandate what they thought they saw that works.
Okay.
What's coming out of that, it's from I think your standpoint and my standpoint, it's an optimistic view of more people coming in more on more days, and that I would say it probably about 18 months ago you were looking on average across all industries in most cities 2 days a week was the normal in day. It's now up to 3.5 on average across the country.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've gone past 3 days a week.
Yeah. So once you get past 3 days a week, you're really eliminating hoteling at the end of the day, and people are having more permanent spots clearly because there's only 5 days in a week, and that's the math works that way. So you're not seeing a reduction in occupancies like you were seeing before. 2 years ago, if a company had 100,000 feet and they were going to renew their lease, because their lease was expiring at that moment, they're probably going to renew for 50 because they're in a hybrid policy where they're rotating people in 50% of the week. Now that you're getting that people are in 70% of the week, you're not seeing those reductions. So it's really helping out the office market because renewals are at least staying the same. It's staying the same.
Okay.
And in some instances, companies are building in more flexibility and building in more amenities. So you're actually seeing some companies increase their foothold to just give more space and more leisure to their employees.
That's where I wonder when is it a correction where we had this drop and now it's leveling off and then it goes back up because companies cut too deep in terms of the size of their square footage and they're realizing, oh shoot, we planned for 50 or 500 or 5 or whatever it is people to be in here 3 days a week so we could hotel more. But now we've got those people are staying here longer and we don't have enough space if everybody's here.
I'm celebrating the leveling out right now.
Yeah.
You're
getting ahead of us.
We hopefully get to the point where there's people are expanding again.
Well, some of the things that we've learned, and there's no scientific proof of this, is all of the, there were a lot of positive effects, obviously, for people who had never experienced autonomy in terms of their workday. They had to punch a clock, and not everyone is like this. So I think we went way too extreme in terms of the celebration of going fully remote because, when we need an emergency room technician, we want to make sure that they're on site, right? And not working from home that day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goods and services that are really important to all of us as individuals that are provided by people who have to be at their place of business, whatever that is. We went too far, I think, in our celebration of remote, made it more difficult to come back, and we started championing remote as the, kind of end all be all for even like mental and emotional health and productivity. We learned with a little bit of time that was not the case.
Contrary, actually, yeah.
And that's not because the pendulum swung all the way to the other way. It's not great if you have to punch a clock every day, no matter how sick you are, and you're still coming into work and you're coughing all over everybody, and and you got terrible lighting and a terrible office space. There's no windows. You never get any fresh air. All of the things.
Yeah.
Then we went all the way the other way on the remote side. We know now that mental health, building relationships, you have to be around other people.
Yeah.
You have to be. And especially these younger kids that are coming in, they're trying to learn the workforce and they're trying to build up some relationships and their own mental health. Like, these kids can't learn working from home. No. The amount of people who have met their spouse through work, whether it was somebody that they work with or at some sort of work function or work event where they ended up meeting up with other people because they went out with some friends from work or they built up relationships, some of their best friends. Like, we know now, and we have the scientific proof that got to be together with other human beings. You got to work together. That doesn't mean that that's an excuse to just say, no, you have to come here and you have to sit here so that I can watch you for 40 plus hours a week. And that's the only reason why you're here. So I think we still have to get to a place where, in designing these offices, where there's a functional use of space, functional reasons for people together. And so, we're going through that. We're constantly reiterating what is our space needs to be. Where are you? What are you seeing?
Well, it's funny. You're actually seeing that even go a step further. I agree with everything you said. You said wholeheartedly, and starting to make our offices look even more like our homes a little bit, and you've got a little bit of a lot of features like that out in your office out the door. But there's scientific proof too that how much natural light plays a part in productivity, how much being able to dress casual plays a part in productivity. So these are things that came out of COVID that we didn't know that we learned about.
Okay.
So that's why you see the evolution. You and I are wearing sneakers
Yeah.
now. When I started in my industry, I was wearing a tie up to my neck every day and an 8 a.m.
Me too. The first 10 years
yeah.
I was essentially in a suit every day.
Yeah. So just making sure that the air quality is fine, that there's natural light, that people are comfortable, that they're sitting comfortable, all of that leads to more productivity. You're on your game more. So it's almost treating your people in the office like they're athletes in a way.
Okay. And is that I got to imagine that's helping those that have the Class A space, because they're going to have more of those features than
Correct.
ones that are Class B, Class C.
Those that are focusing on that when they're designing their space.
Okay.
They're going to get more productivity out of their employees. They're going to be able to retain better. They're going to be able to recruit better. So it's just that, it may be more upfront cost, but the end game is so much bigger, or the end results are so much bigger.
Well, and
that's part of what our consulting group educates us on. It's not
that's
just
great.
about the office space.
That's great. Because I think the health and wellness feature, I don't mean health and wellness like we need to have a masseuse here every day, but the concept of windows and natural lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how important that was until we had it with the space that we're in now.
Yeah.
And so if we were to be looking at other space, it's a must have.
Yeah, of course.
And then I look back on spaces that we had in the past where we didn't have natural lighting, and then some of the lighting that we had that was overhead. And I just, it's one of those things that after you have it, you look back and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we didn't have this before. There's no way we're going backwards.
And
the health and
that
wellness
evolution
piece
we just talked about in like a 4-year period. You were celebrating people being at home, stuck in their own room by themselves, to now making their office environment even more flexible, even more comfortable, even more high end, even more. It was such a shift over a 3 to 4 year period.
Yes, absolutely. I think with that, continuing to make the office more productive is the key. So we built, as you've seen, we've got a game room here. It doesn't get used that often. Hilariously, we learned that it actually gets used a lot as a room to be in to do work. So, because people can kind of go in there, shut the door, and the backdrop of being in a game room has lent itself to some helpful conversations for some of our team members, and even to some potential sales in that, because it's a good conversation starter and all that. And all that type of stuff. I had no idea that was going to be a thing. I thought that people were going to enjoy playing games. Rarely do the games actually get played. So some of this stuff, I could imagine the consulting being really, really helpful. And then also the encouraging of people to try some things and then learn and then adapt and adjust. So I got to imagine that is going to play a role for people. And don't be afraid to try things, because I think there's a lot of people out there who they build a space, they don't know what to do, and they just put something in place. They do want people to like it, enjoy it, and be productive in it. But then they set it and forget it for forever. And so it never acclimates and adjusts to whatever the needs are of the people who use it.
Now when you're designing space, you're looking at a section, you're saying this could be this could be that, and you're also just embedding a flexibility into these sections from day one. So that's a big piece of how we design space. And I would say, going back to the hybrid piece of everything, it's really just so much more pressure on managers now, because that's the key piece of it all. Is the managers have to be unique in how they manage, and manage towards goals or rocks. And not manage towards that. Were you here from 8 to 4? Were you here from 8 to 5? Whatever it may be. So it's really taken it's separated the good managers from the stale managers at the end of the day.
Okay, that's a good thought. What do you think is going to happen next?
I think the office market is going to slowly recover. I think I know, not to make this political all, but the uncertainty coming out of our government right now makes this a little bit harder to predict than I probably would have been able to do 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
Because again, you don't know what, tariffs have played a significant, the on and off of everything has played a significant, you feel the activity in the real estate market, almost on a weekly basis when that stuff's happening. So a little bit harder to predict, but overall office is coming back slowly.
Okay.
Industrial will continue to ramp up, especially as we begin to onshore more and more and more. And that's just only going to accelerate a growth that we had up to 2019-20 with distribution industrial. It slowed down, got stagnant for a little bit, started to pick back up again. But that's how we live our lives now. Everything's delivered to our doors. So that's almost why that market just needs to continue to grow. And then, multifamily is still pretty tight across the country right now. It's doing pretty well. And that's almost why it's a little more frustrating why we can't get it ramped up more in Buffalo, because it's doing well in so many other cities right now. And you're seeing some of these towers in Pittsburgh and Cleveland get revamped to be nice market rate, or even, when I talk about market rate, I'm talking about someone that can afford, 5 years out of college. Not a CEO at the Avant.
Right.
Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about market rate. I'm talking about like the Trico building. More examples of that.
Okay. Do you think any of the last question I have for you, changing demographics, age demographics? Buffalo's actually got a 10% larger 65 plus senior population than most cities nationally, which means we then have a lesser percentage population of the younger age demographics. Yeah. And with real estate, you have, whether it's on the business side or the family side, these things affect, like, how many people are we going to have to fill this stuff? Like, can you just kind of shed some light on how you think about different age groups, and whether it's multifamily or
when you talk to the groups that are in this building, the larger and smaller groups, or you're talking to Odoo or ACV, and you're talking to their recruiters that are really trying to bring people in from outside the region and other schools and so forth. And a lot of the questions they get from these kids in their 20s is, well, where can I live?
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why those statistics are the way they are, obviously our history, and it's hard. It takes a while to get out of, an aging city, but we haven't provided enough options for that generation to live down here. So they're going to Edgartsville, and they're going to, other parts of Amherst. And, I have 3 friends in the last 5 years that have moved back from other cities to move to M&T that would have lived in the city if they had an opportunity, but there wasn't really. So they're in Edgartsville or whatever. So I don't know that we've provided, I know we haven't provided enough options to keep those Odoo, ACV, M&T Tech employees downtown.
Okay.
Because we know that generation, they don't like to drive. They like public transportation. They like walkable areas. Have we provided them that environment in downtown?
No, we don't have that.
Yeah. So it's, until we have that, I don't know. I mean, that's the goal. That's ultimately where I see this city flourishing, is when we have a diverse population living downtown.
Yeah.
Right now we've got the top and we've got the bottom, and the middle is just hollow.
Got it. That makes sense. Well, and I'm interested to see in the days to come changes that inevitably will happen one way or another, whether it's to things like the interest rates, whether it's to political appetite to take on more risk or provide more incentives for certain things to get done. Our ability as a city to attract more talent and more people, and what are the tools and resources we need to do that, whether it's housing or, office space or whatever it is, industrial space. And then just the mindset as we move forward of our community, who had some pretty darn good momentum going into COVID, and then coming out of it, we're presented, like a lot of cities, with a bunch of challenges that require some innovation and creative problem solving.
Yeah.
And are we going to, band together and actually get beyond like talking into action to come up with some creative ideas to continue to lift ourselves out of the challenges that presented themselves over the last handful of years?
I think it's going to have to be our generation that does it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate you.
I love your shirt.
Thanks. Yeah. For those listening at home, we're wearing essentially the same shirt right now. Is that a J. Crew? Listen.
No, it's not J. Crew. I'm sorry.
As men, we only have like 3 stores to shop at. That's how we're looked at and treated. They don't care. So give them three options.
Yeah.
So
thanks
buddy.
for having me, Randy. It was fun.
Thanks, buddy.